I am, for the record, Al Lees. I own Lees Market, and the property that I own abuts 45% of the total linear footage of the sidewalk. And unfortunately, I haven't been contacted yet about my thoughts, so here are my thoughts. And I'm going to read very quickly from a prepared statement to keep me on track and keep us on time and task. And I first of all want to say that I want to compliment the Sidewalk Committee for their tireless dedication. I really mean that. The group as a whole has spent countless hours developing their vision for sidewalks in Central Village, and all should be commended. However, simply because an idea is thought about and developed over a long period of time does not mean it in and of itself should go forward. I've had many false starts in my own business, and I'm sure all of you have as well. Sometimes ideas are just that, ideas. What I hope to do is detail a number of facts and likely scenarios that may occur, and in some cases will occur, that both impact the town and myself if the funding goes forward and this project moves forward. And I would like to say up front, there's nothing personal, it's pure business. This is nothing to do with individuals or my particular feelings. The project has been portrayed as not costing the town anything, although for tonight we know that it, directly or indirectly there has been cost and will continue to be. This is factually not true. While it is true that the cost of actual construction of the sidewalks will be paid through federal and state monies, it is also true that after that, the town will be on the hook to pay for their maintenance and general upkeep. As anyone in business knows all too well, the true cost is not the first capital cost, but the ongoing cost. Concrete cracks and breaks, and it needs repair. Sidewalks need to be swept to provide access and ensure that they are passable, and landscaping, which is part of this plan, must be maintained. If it is not done, good intentions will turn into a long-term eyesore within the Central Village Business District. Due to a variety of financial circumstances, the town struggles to maintain their existing infrastructure. In other words, we don't have enough ongoing available cash to maintain what we have now. Case in point are the condition of the sidewalks in Westport Point, the head of Westport. The fog lines that were put out on Central Village to help pedestrian traffic and cars kind of mitigate the lines on the road that were put, I believe, in 2007 during the sidewalk, the benches have not been maintained. Now it's 5 years later, the faint lines are down the road and it's not maintained. This is not a fault of the highway department or anyone else, and this is not a blame game. These are just facts, and we can go all through the town and see the tremendous competing needs for very limited resources. I mean, tonight with the school committee, it just goes on and on and on. And to layer on another expense of this magnitude when the town does not have the capacity to attend to these and many other infrastructure needs, I believe flies in the face of logic and reason. The town and all abutters will increase their insurance risk through this action, again potentially costing all of us an undetermined amount of money. This is real and not imagined. Since the Sidewalk Committee started their process, and in fact, as late as July 2010, the Mass Supreme Judicial Court expanded liability for slip and falls, particularly mentioning sidewalks. They overturned an almost 140-year-old ruling by eliminating the distinction between natural and unnatural accumulations of snow and ice, making property owners, both municipal and private, liable for injuries caused by their negligence to eliminate both types of hazards. And typically, we felt silent on what reasonable attempt means, leaving these to litigation and jury awards. This is a fact. So what do these two things have in common? At some point, possibly sooner than later, the town will realize that they do not have the funds to maintain the sidewalks, and will seek to eliminate or at least spread their liability by creating a sidewalk bylaw. And I, as an abutter, will incur increased exposure and potentially higher costs as a result of legal action against the town and me. In addition, Mass General Law is pretty specific. Chapter 83, Section 23 language, as it relates to sidewalks, states that in order for construction of a new sidewalk or the reconstruction of a sidewalk with material more permanent than the existing, the board in this case the select board, may approve for the assessment of a reasonable amount not exceeding one-half the cost upon the abutting estates. This is clearly a way for future reconstruction costs to be passed on to me and other abutters. Further, Mass General Law, Chapter 30 states that towns may create bylaws relative to snow and ice on buildings and sidewalks. Cities by ordinance and towns may require removal of snow and ice from sidewalks by the abutter. Chapter 85, Section 6, towns may accept this section, in other words, choose to remove snow and ice from sidewalks and assess the whole or any part of the cost of removal to abutters. And in a legal opinion by my attorney Peter Bullitt and his law partner Scott Lang, former mayor of New Bedford, makes clear that the town may have a case to apply these laws selectively, though it could be contested, meaning spot zoning, meaning only in front of my property and the other businesses, not throughout the town. So where am I going with all this? Putting motion aside of the debate as to whether or not there should be sidewalks in Central Village, the overwhelming evidence suggests that if they are to be built, the town would incur increased costs that we cannot afford and increased exposure to potential lawsuits from slip and fall accidents, particularly in light of the new recent Mass SJC ruling. Logically, at some point in time, there will be a move to place on the town warrant one or more initiatives that transfer these costs and liabilities to abutters in Central Village. In fact, public discussion and deliberation by this board have already broached the subject, most recently at the February 29th board meeting, and paperwork that defines the bylaws, the sidewalk bylaws in area towns is part of the minutes, as well as public comments suggesting that this very type of transference of expenditure from the town to local businesses was discussed. In my estimation, it is not a question of if, but when this will occur. As the abutter of 45% of the proposed sidewalks, I am completely opposed to them for the reasons I have stated, as well as other unforeseen financial consequences. For me not to be opposed to this would be the equivalent of playing financial Russian roulette with a loaded gun. These unnecessary potential cost overlays will hinder my ability to create new jobs in the town, give much needed raises to my employees, and diminish my ability to fund many worthwhile and necessary projects throughout the town. In the past 10 years alone, and I am really reluctant to state this, but this is how I feel and where the stakes are, I've quietly donated in excess of $1.5 million of my own personal money to nonprofit organizations and town projects alike. I'm not a bottomless pit of cash, however, and if the sidewalks do become a reality and the costs that I've described materialize, which I firmly believe that they will, or else I wouldn't be standing here, they'll have to come from somewhere else. I can't have that overlay cost and still continue to fund at the same level that I do. My concerns are not new. They have been expressed many times during this entire process. So to wrap it up, and to be clear, I am opposed to the Central Village sidewalks. I will not sign off on any temporary easements or any other legal document relating to this, and if necessary, I will have no choice but to pursue any legal avenue to protect my business and my investment in this town. I ask that you save us all from any financial or personal unpleasantness and not vote to allocate the funds for this project.
Yeah. Oh, I'm David Wallace. I'm on the committee. I'm one of the co-chairmen. The balance is public safety. The reason we got involved in this thing in the beginning was that there were 140 more people living in the village, in the village's apartments. That actually increased threefold the total residents in the building, in the village. Elaine mentioned that Mr. Cowan had built a sidewalk from the village apartments right down to Main Road, with the intention of having a crosswalk at that point. There was a meeting, I believe, I was not there, between Mr. Karam and the Board of Selectmen at that time. And they tried to hash that out, but then they put it all off, deciding, let's see what the patterns of circulation are going to be. And then we'll tackle where a sidewalk should be added. The crosswalk at the end of Village Way was indeed the prime connection. The safety officer, Sergeant Majewski, a safety officer at that time, said we have to have a sidewalk landing on either end of that crosswalk, which we could do. There's a concrete platform. But then the question is, where do people go from there? Those going north, going towards Marguerite's or get a haircut or whatever, would have to walk in the street. Also, those going south to the banks, to the market, to town hall, those people would have to walk in the streets. There was an inconsistency in logic here. And there were a number of indications that people who lived in the village apartments did want to walk. It's 55 years of age and over there. I find that driving gets more difficult as you get older, and you like to walk because that's the only exercise you can get, really. So these people were thinking of that. The other thing I want to point out is that Central Village is a real center of the town. I think it's certainly the largest concentration of businesses in a small area in the town. An informal survey that was done in 2008 estimated there were about 400 people working in the village, many of them part-time workers. In addition to them, these were private businesses. In addition to that, there were 120 town employees, most of them working in this building, but also that includes the police force and the fire departments who were working in the village. In addition, in the period, the 5-year period between 2004 and 2008, that's 4 years, but if you count on the ending years, it's 5 years, $22 million was spent in real estate development, either purchasing of land or developing buildings. And since that time, we've had more. The Jennings property was purchased. The Citizen Union Bank is under construction, and the medical building behind the medical center. So it puts up the total real estate cost probably approaching $30 million. So there's a lot of activity going on here. And I think with 180 people living here as well, there is real concern for safety. And I find it hard to believe that the kind of issues that were just raised really can't be solved in the face of making the village a safer place to be. And that's been the position of the committee all along.
Thank you.